Hey guys, welcome to part 4 of our little Lego minifigure tutorial. This video this week is going to get a wee bit complicated. We're not talking about modeling per se, but we're going to do a little bit of a configuration of our models to get around a few glitches on our model that comes from using Max. Just a wee quirk of using Max. So let's go over to our software here and get a little look. So last time we left off the model like this. We made one arm and one hand. Previously we had made two legs, and to make the two legs what we did was we just duplicated this one and then scaled it to minus 100%. And if I let me see, I won't show you here actually, but I literally just took this one, took my scale key, scale tool, right clicked on it and set it to minus 100 in one of the axes. I think it was the x-axis, and it looks fine in Max. But what we're going to do now, we're going to export this guy out, and we're going to see a few issues that we can have based on a few quirks of Max's when it comes to duplicating pieces, and a few wee fixes that we need to do. So first of all, I'm going to export this out, and I'm going to show you the problems that we can get. And then I'm going to show you the right way of doing it. So if you're watching this video, you don't need to follow along right away. I will let you know when we're going to do the part that I want you to do. I'm just going to show you the problems that we can get and common errors that we can come across and what to avoid. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to select these objects. I'm not going to position this just yet. I'm going to go File, Export, Export Selected. I've got a whole list of wee test files here, testing different things. I'll call this one Test A. Instead of a number system. That was myself. I was actually testing out a few different methods of doing this. When we go to export here, this might be closed over, or actually it'll be something like that. If we open up the geometry tab, it will actually have turbo smooth ticked to begin with. So I'm going to switch that on right now just to show you what happens. If you recall, on our arm we have a turbo smooth. We have a turbo smooth applied to that. And if we just click down the stack, it removes the turbo smooth. You see the much simpler geometry. So that's it with the turbo smooth. Now, when we exported that and we had the turbo smooth checked, you would think that would mean, yes, include the turbo smooth. But the wording is a little bit strange. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over to Substance Painter now. And I'm going to import that, or I'm going to start a new project with that little test model that we just made. Test A, there we go. And look at a few of the problems that we're getting here. First of all, you can see that arm, it hasn't applied the turbo smooth, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the more immediate problem is, look at this leg down here. Let me just give a bit more room, a bit more space to this so you can see. You can see this doesn't look right. It's kind of like see-through. It's kind of like it's made out of glass and we can see through it. What's going on there? What's actually happening there is that 3D Max has flipped the normals on our polygons on that object, and it's done it for every single polygon, and that gives it that inside out appearance. I've explained before in my other videos, and when we look at a 3D model, we're not actually looking at a solid object. What we're looking at is kind of like a paper mesh. It's hollow on the inside, or imagine a balloon being blown up. So it's hollow on the inside, but also that surface is only a one-sided surface, so it has an outside, but it doesn't have an inside. So it appears invisible from behind. So that's what we're seeing here. These normals have been flipped inside out. So what should be the front face here, we're seeing the back side of it, the non-existent side of it, and then we're actually seeing through like an x-ray to those back polygons, which are now facing inwards instead of facing outwards. So the reason it done that was because when we scaled it to minus 100% in any axis at all, whether it's a number of axes or just one axis, for some strange reason, I don't know why Max interpolates it this way, but it also flips those normals to like minus 100% as well. It flips them inside out. Now, if we go back to Max, it looks totally fine here. It looks totally okay. And even if we were to render this out in Max, it would look fine. But it's only when we go into these other softwares that kind of interpolate the data differently that we get this appears as a problem, or this comes up. And that's what's happening here as well with the arm. When we export the FBX and we check that little turbo smooth button, what we're actually saying is, yes, export the turbo smooth modifier. and then we'll get any Substance Painter. Substance Painter is not picking up that modifier, so it's not taking all of the data, if that makes sense. So it doesn't really matter what's going on under the hood with that, but it's just a bit counterintuitive. So let's change this up a little bit. Let's see if we can fix a few of these problems. So what I can do is I can take this model here. Now, again, this is the wrong thing. I'm going to show you the wrong thing to do here, but it's the first thing most people think of. So I'm going to show you it and show you why it's incorrect. What we can do is we can select all of these polys and we can just go flip, and we do that. And now look what's happening here. It's turned it black, but it hasn't changed the color of it. It's still a pink object. We're just seeing the back side of those polygons, and remember they only have one side. So let me see. What we'll do as well, we'll just export this again. Oh, sorry, go top level. If we export this again, I'll go File, Export, Export Selected. I'll call this one Test B this time. Test B. And now in this little geometry box, we're going to uncheck Turbo Smooth. Again, it seems counterintuitive, but we're going to uncheck it. The reason why we uncheck it is this will then 3ds Max will interpret that as saying, no, don't save the Turbo Smooth modifier, just save out the mesh as it looks like. So it's not a six-sided cube that has a Turbo Smooth applied. It is actually this nice smooth shape, just as is, that we're going to export out. So we'll hit OK there. And we get this warning here. Plugin will test latent meshes according to iteration values, blah, 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 blah. This looks like a warning message, but it's actually a good thing. So we can just hit OK. And if we go back to Substance Painter, what I'll do is I'll just start a new project and discard this one. New project with test B this time. I'll just hit OK. And we'll discard. Let me see. There we go. We're loading up. Now you can see, unchecking the Turbo Smooth, the arm is fixed. Happy days. And now it kind of looks like the leg is fixed. We're seeing it. We're seeing the right, correct side of it. But look how the color and the shading on it is just not quite correct. You can see there's kind of a shadow on the top and light at the bottom, whereas it should be shadow on the bottom, light on top. It's kind of like that bit in Star Wars where C-3PO gets the different coloured leg or the different coloured arm or whatever. So it stands out a little bit, and it might just have a negative impact on or the likes of our ambient occlusion and things like that, where these normals aren't quite facing right. Now, I don't know why it does this. I don't know what the logic is behind it, but it's just one of those pitfalls that we come up when we're 3D modelling and say we're making a jet plane, we want to duplicate the engine over, or we're making a character, we duplicate shoulder pads, gloves from one side to the other, boots, whatever it is. Oftentimes when we're modeling, we're going to duplicate things and mirror them from one side to the other. So I've come across this problem so many times, and it's not something that I really see explained very much, so I wanted to make this video explain how to fix it. So that is our little demonstration of what not to do in terms of fixing this flipping problem. You might also see what they'll do is they'll come into the modifier list and they'll use one here called, where is it? Normal. And what this does is it just flips all the normals. And you can see it's back to pink again because we flipped them once and now we put this on, it's flipped them again. If we can just check that, and I'll do that. Again, it looks like it's working, but when we do this and come into Substance Painter, we're going to get this weird shadowy effect that we don't want. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to close this guy. We're going to close this test B. We don't want him. Discard that. What we're also going to do is just to be safe and make sure, I'm going to reload this guy. Reset. Save no, do not save changes. Yes, I really want to reset. This is why it was important as well. This is why I saved in the last video right before I done it as duplicating, because I had to do a little bit of experimenting myself to see what was the best method, and I wanted to make sure that my save file was exactly as I want it. So here's what I'm going to do. That was my little duplicate leg there, And I'm just going to get rid of that. Do you know what I'm going to do as well, actually? I'm just going to select you. I'm going to hide all these guys. Hide selection, don't need to see those. And we'll select you and we'll zoom in on you. And we'll just maximize this up. There we go. So what I'm going to do with this, and in fact I can do it with all three of these. I'm going to use a different modifier called the Symmetry Modifier. But what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to just line this up. And what I need to do is rotate this 10 degrees just with my angle snap to get exactly 10. And now I will just move it into position. And another thing, yes, another important thing I need to show you actually. I wonder, should I demonstrate this? I bet you if I tried to, it wouldn't work. Or if I try to show you, it'll work, and I'll sound like I'm talking crap. If we look at this, before I go on, if we look at this, you'll see here that this object has a rotation value of 10 in the y direction. We just rotated it 10 degrees to make it fit, and it's being recorded as having a rotation of 10 degrees in the y direction, 0, 0, and the x and the z, but 10 in the y. What this means is that 3ds Max is still seeing this as a, it's still seeing it as an editable poly, and then it's having a turbo smooth applied, and then it's also having a rotation applied. So what 3ds Max is saying is that at base level, this is still a cube that is orientated vertically and only has like 6 faces on it. But we've applied all these changes, and that includes the rotation. Now, let me try, I will try actually to see if I can demonstrate. What are we like for time in this video already? 12 minutes, that's not too bad. Hopefully we'll be done at about the 20-minute mark for this one. I know it's boring, but this is really important stuff. So export selected, test C, we'll call this one. Now, if I'm right, and I hope that works this time because it was frustrating me a few times before, when we import this in, the arm should go back to being straight. File, new. Of course, I guarantee it won't work this time, and I will look like I don't know what I'm talking about. More so than usual, at least anyway. Is it going to do it? Oh no, it held on okay. I bet you if we did it without the turbo smooth, it might affect it. But what can happen is it doesn't hold this translation going from one software to the other. It will actually make it vertical. So what we want to do, and what we want to get into the habit of doing, let me see actually, what we want to get into the habit of doing when we go to export these, I'm going to select both of these. I want you to click into the hierarchy here and scroll down and just check the transform and scale button. So just before I do that, I will show you again that this arm has a value of 10 in the Y rotation, but if we now click that reset transform, you'll notice that jumps down to being 0. So now Max is saying, yep, that angle that it's at, that's its default angle, that's the way this should be orientated. Or oriented, what's the word? Orientated? Oriented? I don't know. And we're going to click the scale button as well. I should actually just scale this arm up a wee bit. I think it's a wee bit too small, but it'll do for now. So yes, very, very important step. Please do not skip this. It didn't glitch out on me this time, but I guarantee you when you get used to flipping things around, etc., this will glitch out on you, and it will it'll come in vertically. Sometimes what I can even do is this little hand will come in, rotate it all the way around. If you recall, when we modeled it, we actually modeled it the other way around. So it was kind of the hand was facing vertically rather than horizontally like it is now. And when we export out, it'll go back to that very original position. It didn't do it this time, which is kind of annoying. I would like to have showed you, but I'm also not going to look a gift horse in the mouth when I can actually get it working for once. So okay, we're going to leave it like that. We could also take all of these objects, and it's not bad practice just to reset, transform, reset, scale on all of them. And now we're ready to duplicate these models. So we're going to make sure we're on top level here. Oh, sorry, make sure we're back in just our regular create mode. Take you, and take you. So these are the three objects that are going to be duplicated. So we'll come over to our modifier panel, and we're going to click here, and we're going to add a modifier called Symmetry. This is the one we want. Now you'll see already what's happening here. If I click on the Symmetry Modifier, not with the Rotate tool, I want the Move tool. What we actually have is a little mirror plane here that will create the symmetry of this object and make a duplicate of them. So I can kind of move it about. I really only want to use this one axis rather than the two to move it back and forth, and you can see what's happening here. It's kind of on the wrong side, but that's not too big a deal right now. Just make sure you choose the right axis depending on what way you have modeled your characters. It might not be the Z axis you want, it might be the X axis or the Y axis, but in my case it's the X axis here. That's what I want. I'm not really too worried about where, how far away I put these, because what I'm going to do now is just go back to top level. Now the problem with doing this is both legs are part of the same game object. Both hands are part of the same game object, and both of these are part of the same game object. And what we have to do here now is we've got the turbo smooth on this. Unfortunately, we have to collapse this stack down and lose that turbo smooth, which is annoying because it's what we call a destructive edit. So we can't go back and refine this further later on. So we really only want to be doing this stage at the very end when we're happy with what we've got. But what we'll do is we'll take all three of you actually. We're going to right click and convert to Editable Poly. And what this does is it gets rid of the Symmetry Modifier at the top of the stack and allows us to go back in here to our vertex and polygon mode. So what I want to do for each of these objects in turn, I want to just select everything. Make sure you've got the whole object selected. So make sure you've got ignore back facing off, and that way when you drag over it, it will select everything, just to show you what that does. If I activate that and select everything here, the back side did not get selected. So that could be a real pain in the bum. So just make sure that's not checked. Select everything, and now we're going to go down and just detach this. Just hit detach, I said detach as, and we're going to call this arm_r. Just hit OK. And we will come to right click and go to top level. So now we've got two separate arm objects. This one's actually still named box02, so we'll call this arm_L. We're going to do the same for the hands here, exactly the same process. Now this can be a bit of a tedious pain on the back side. There's probably a better way of doing this if you have a lot of game objects. If I was making something like a spaceship or a vehicle that had a lot of intricate parts that were being replicated both left and right, this might not be the most efficient method of doing so. And in fact, if anyone knows a better method for more complicated models, please do say in the comments below. Where are we going here? Just this last one. But for a simple model like a Lego man, where it's only 2 or 3 wee components, it's not the biggest hassle in the world just to do this manually like this. So this would be leg_r. So there we go. We've detached those. We just go back to top level. We now have everything as separate game objects. And the reason why we want them as separate game objects is if we go to animate this later on, if that was just going to be a little statuette that didn't move, we wouldn't need to bother detaching these. But assuming we're making a game asset, we're going to want this guy to move his arms and move his wrist and move his legs. So they need to be separate game objects to allow that. But once they're separated, all we have to do is move these over to where we want them to be. Now look at this here, the pivot is completely off. So what we'll do is effect pivot on the center of the object. It's not going to be perfect just yet, but I'll move it over there. And here we go. All I want to do is just eyeball this into position now. Make sure that The shoulder is incorrect. That actually looks not too bad where it is. Maybe just the tiniest little ounce more over. Brilliant. I'm happy enough with that. And if we render this one out, it should work lovely. So I'm going to throw caution to the wind and just test this out. Hopefully I don't make a complete arse of myself and this doesn't work. If we go export selected, and we'll call this one test D. And it'll take its sweet time. Make sure Turbo Smooth is not activated. Okay, and we'll just try this in Substance Painter. File. Let me see, new. Discard the old project. And here we have our new project. And there we'll see everything is working hunky-dory. That's exactly the way we want it. I'm so glad that worked. But there we see both of our legs have matching light on them. We have the nice Turbo Smooth on the arms. Everything is great. So that's us working great now. Now, we're not quite ready to actually start painting this guy yet. So don't be thinking that we can go and actually start painting this. Reason being, if we look over here at our UV, we haven't actually unwrapped this guy yet, so we've got no mapping data. If I was to start painting on this guy, it would go absolutely nuts. So we need to go back into 3ds Max and unwrap him and then export him once more. So it is a bit of a pain in the bum to be exporting this out to test it, but it only takes a couple of seconds. It's not the biggest hassle in the world. We do have one other thing we want to do before we would be exporting this out for animation or anything like that. We want to take each of these objects in turn, and we're going to go to Effect Pivot Only, and we're going to just move the pivot to where it will be animating from. So if this wrist is going to rotate, say if I was animating and I rotate this wrist, at the minute the pivot is down here, so if I go to rotate his wrist, it's breaking away. That's not what we want at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click, hide unselected, I'm going to Effect Pivot Only, and we're just going to move this pivot up somewhere, probably in the middle of this circle here. Select my Move tool. And in fact, what I should have done was actually move these pivots before I duplicated them. And it would have saved me from doing it twice. But if we move that, unhide all, and now if we rotate this guy, and we'll really probably only want to be rotating him in this axis, but you can see that's a far better rotation. So we need to do that for each of our pieces. We need to move our leg pivot. I won't show every single one of these in the video, but this would be our last step just before we would be wanting to start animating this and texturing it and have the model as done. Now actually the pivots here for the legs aren't too bad because we started with a cylinder. When we start with the cylinder, the pivot is centralized anyway. So if I rotate this, that should, yep, that's actually grand, that's okay. My head again is a cylinder, so this one should rotate okay. Yeah, that's grand. So actually all we need to really do is the hands and the wrist. So again, if I was bending this arm, nope, that's no good, we don't want to bend from there. I'm going to Effect Pivot Only, Move tool, I'll just go to the left side view here. I'll just move this up to about here. That looks about right. We could actually just move it into the inside of the joint as well. Let me see, hide unselected. So where we kind of want this actually works quite nice. We've got a nice wee target here in the middle. Perfect. Oh, whoops. Where is my guy going? So now we deactivate that Effect Pivot Only. Now if we rotate this guy, oops, there we are. Not quite perfect yet, but closer, we're getting closer. We just want to make sure that's pivot in the right place. Now we haven't attached the hands and stuff. I don't want to make this an animation video actually, but just to make you aware of that, we can move our pivot points. And I'm going to leave this video here. I think we're dragging on in time now. In the next video, we will unwrap this guy, and then he will be good to go for texturing. But I'll leave this one here now. We've fixed all those wee glitches with the turbo smooth. We've fixed those wee glitches with the flip normals. They're not something that you would come across readily, and they're not something that the solution's easy to think off the top of the bat. So I hope you've learned something there. It definitely frustrated me when I first encountered these. So yeah, very, very important stuff. We'll leave it there. I'm just rambling now. I'm just rambling. So file and save our little guy. And I will see you in the next video where we unwrap him. Okay, thank you very much, guys. If you have any comments at all, if you've come across these problems or any other novel solutions for them, please let me know. If you have any other questions, please ask away in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed that. I will see you next time. Thank you very much.